Hi everyone, I'm Monica and we are back with reJUVEnation episode 8 and I have a special guest. I'm sure most of you know the tactician, the Twitter tactician. Uh, Go ahead and introduce yourself.
Hi everyone, my name is Mohammed Al Shahali. I'm also known as Tactico with Giuseppe in his videos. I'm glad to be here with Monica in her podcast. It's gonna be exciting for sure.
Tell us tell us your love story with Juventus.
Yeah, sure. So it was back in '98. I was pretty young and I didn't have a specific club back then. And then I met one guy who was in love with Del Piero. Uh, and he introduced me to Juventus. We started watching together. I wasn't still hooked too much with Juventus, but it started to grow slowly. And then a few years later, he passed away, and I kept it. I became I like Juventus grew even more and more, and I watched almost all the games since.
Amazing. That's
Yeah.
one of the best I've heard so far. So definitely beats mine. That's really awesome. And I'm sure or I hope he's watching, the games with you and that's really cool. I like that. Awesome.
Yeah.
So we'll go into Verona Juventus. So on that note, so we take on Verona in their home, and they've won their last 3 home games in Serie A. So we're going into the match kind of with that stat behind us, and Pirlo spoke today. So some of the things he touched on, or we'll start with what he said. So Pirlo said Verona must be faced in the best possible way. A difficult and very physical match awaits us against a team that plays very good one-on-one football. And compared to the first game earlier this season, they've added players and a very tough match awaits us. We should not be surprised by their physicality. They play a particular football like that of Atalanta, and they will come at us from the first minute until the 90th. We will have to play for each other and attack the spaces. So on this note where he says we need to attack the spaces, what um what spaces do Verona give or have Verona given? They play a 3-4, I think 1-2-1 formation. Um what holes do they leave in their tactics?
Yeah, absolutely. So they pressure high. They so as soon as Juventus gets the ball, they're gonna go and try and take it. Even if it's with Chesney, with anyone in defense and all that, they're gonna push. They're gonna push all the players as up as possible, and this is where we can get some space behind them. And this is how we scored the first goal. Well, the only goal, right, against Verona. Uh, right away, like you could see, it was minute 77, something like that, and you had Quadrado with the ball like close to Chesney, and almost all the Verona players were inside our box. So this is how high they're pressuring, even though they're winning. They could just park the bus and stay behind and just kill the time. But no, they decided to pressure high. They always play their game. They play with intensity for 90 minutes, try to get the ball. And this is where we need to be smart and find those spaces, attack, counter attack, and score. And we're struggling with that. Specifically, if we don't have Bonucci, we're not able to take the ball outside of our own box.
Of course. I've said it multiple times that, if you don't have Bonucci, you have to have Arthur. And, having not having both of them is a real issue. And I know that people are they have their favorites, in the center back roles with Demiral and of course De Ligt. But, I always said, you get what you get from Bonucci. You're not gonna expect, uh, um, a last pitch tackle from him, to save a goal or him to really outbody a number 9 like Lukaku. He's never going to be that guy, but absolutely, this might be, we will get into, our tactical approach a little bit later on, but it's interesting that, you recognize that Verona presses high and what we can do to, I guess, break that press. But on the other hand, we've been struggling when teams do that to us. So that's interesting that you point that out, and we'll revisit that a little bit. Pirlo also spoke about, our injuries and how no one really has recovered. We just got Rabiot back because he served his suspension, but we're also now missing Danilo for the same uh, cumulative yellow card reason. So the projected lineup is as followed: Chesney in goal, Demiral, Delict, and Sandro as a back three, Chiesa, McKennie, Bentancur, Rabiot, and Bernardeschi as a five midfield, and Kulusevski and Ronaldo up top. I'm not sure if you would change anything. I'm not sure if there's even anything able to change because of our lack of depth. I know there's a lot of talk about on Juve Twitter about Dragusin and Fagioli and guys like that. I personally don't think it's time to experiment. Um, Early on in the season, I thought Pirlo was really brave experimenting with throwing Portanova in there and guys like that. I really wasn't in agreement with it then. And, I'm definitely not in agreement with it now, considering, we need every single win to get back in the race. Would you make any changes? I know there was a debate whether to put Dragusin back there, so then it would kind of relieve the option of going to wing backs and putting Chiesa and Bernardeschi in positions where they don't really play or excel in. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, if you look at it, Dragoshin, Demiral, Delicht, they're all strong defenders. They're aggressive and all that, but they're not your Danilo. They're not your Sandro. You need one fullback who's converted to a center back in the Pirlo system. And
Yes.
that's why I agree with that formation, because Sandro would play that role. Danilo's not there, so we need Sandro. And then Bernardeschi for sure. I'm pretty sure he's gonna play ahead of Rabota. Uh, so that's the only thing that's gonna change there. Fagioli, he's amazing. He has a lot of talent. I even saw him in the U.S. when he went to play there with the first team,
Hmm.
and we were laughing about it because Fagioli means beans, right?
Yeah.
So I call him Mr. Bean. Mr. Bean, he's really talented, but we need to watch out, guys. I know in Germany, everyone is talking about how that new player just scored against Atalanta, and it's amazing and this and that, and how come in Italy we don't do the same? It's true. Germans, they push, but they have a system that has been implemented for years there, where they're training their youngsters to take that responsibility. Juventus is the only one that's doing that with the under 23. So in a couple of years, we're going to see that more and more, like players that are confident, that can play with ease and integrate in the team. Right now, if you put a lot of responsibility on those youngsters, they can get burned and you're going to lose those talents. So we have to slowly integrate them.
I'm
It's completely different mentality between the Primavera and the first team.
I'm 100% with you there. I think the fan base is very reactionary and emotional when it comes to certain things. And I'm all for, the youth, and it actually, brings a sense of, I don't know, pride when you see youth players being integrated into the first team when they first come on as a sub and things like that. But I mean, it's time and place for me, and right now, I don't think is the right time. So I'm completely there with you on that. But then you can argue, you know, what is Bentancur doing on the field, game in and game out? And I can see that argument. I'm not sure how about your stance on Bentancur and how he's been looking in your eyes the past few games. But for me personally, I know it was Crotone and 30 minutes Fagioli has played, but you just see, the difference in Bentancur just hiding all game and avoiding his responsibilities as, essentially he's playing as a regista, and he
Yeah,
just doesn't want the ball, which is the one thing, that you're supposed to do. Uh, and you see Delict and even Demiral, Danilo, playing with most of the ball, and Bentancur's not showing himself, to pick up the ball. So I understand the frustration from Juventus fans, seeing that and then saying, why don't you just give Fagioli a chance if that's what we're gonna see week in and week out? So yeah, I don't know. Do you have any thoughts on Bentancur? I know it's a little
yeah,
side
yeah, yeah.
topic, but
But one quick thing about just assessing Fagioli based on those 20 minutes, I wouldn't do that because young players, when they get a chance to play like for 20, 30 minutes, they show amazing skills. They're super motivated and all that because they grew up in Juventus, so they have an extra edge and like,
mhm,
and they want to prove themselves. But when you put them for a long period, then you're gonna see the real
the
players. And this is
flaws.
what happened
Yeah.
with Frabotta too. At the
Yes.
beginning, we're like, "Wow, Frabotta could be good," but no,
Yes.
you saw like all the mistakes that he made, which
Yes.
is
Yeah.
normal.
Hmm.
Now, Bentancur, he's not a regista. That's 100%. He struggled a lot this season. I think it's his worst season, and he made a lot of mistakes. He lost a lot of balls, specifically the one against Porto. This was, you don't do that in Champions League.
Hmm. But I
Serie
mean,
A and Copa, fine, okay, like we can catch up. But Champions League, you only get one chance. You blow
yeah,
it, that's it. You're out.
yeah.
There's no time for mistakes.
And
So
and you mentioned like the Verona press, and then that could I wouldn't be shocked if something like that happens tomorrow, right? With him,
yeah,
he's essentially going to be playing that role
yeah,
because
absolutely,
yeah.
absolutely.
So yeah, I don't know if I would have actually. I don't even. We'll get. I guess we're into the lineup. So I would have actually. I would like to see Ramsey in the lineup. I'm not sure if you agree or not, but um, I feel like he could be playing in a free role in the
Yeah,
midfield five. Um, McKennie could, take a little step back and do the dirty work while Ramsey, like free roams, because that's the type of player he is. And I'm not sure if he's not projected in the lineup relating to his fitness and just recovering and, game by game, we'll save him for Spezia and so forth. But
yeah,
I mean, he's the only midfielder in my eyes offering, something specific and unique as opposed to everyone else. And I guess that's why we see all these reports that Pirlo is in love with Ramsey and what he
yeah,
offers, but just his fitness lets him down. Would
for
you
sure.
if would you prefer seeing Ramsey than anyone else that's projected in the midfield?
If if his fitness level was like let's say McKennie or something like that, definitely every game. But no way like he could play for 90 minutes or even 60 minutes tomorrow. I think he's gonna play 30 minutes second half, something like that. That's the thing. He's the closest to being a trequartista. Like the one who can infiltrate the box, can give those like key passes to the strikers and all that stuff. But yeah, I would see Ramsey better with Morata and Ronaldo. But when you have Ramsey, Kulusevski, Bernardeschi, Chiesa, and all these guys, they're gonna start like playing wide and all that. So you're not gonna have anyone in the box.
Hmm.
And
I don't
that's why
think.
McKennie would be really important because he's the one who goes inside the box. We
Yes.
we've seen Ramsey going in the box, but he didn't do much. He doesn't do like a lot, as much as McKennie, for example.
Yeah, I touch on that a little bit as well later on, and how we've been, achieving decent results at set pieces, whereas Verona has actually conceded and don't defend set pieces well, and we have some good guys in the air, so maybe that could be a key as well. Um, so what scares you the most about this lineup? I know we touched on the wing back situation. Chiesa is gonna have to do a lot of work, I
Yeah.
feel, on that right side. Um, and then Bernardeschi, I feel like that side is a bit more safe, and I'm not sure if it's Demiral that's scaring me a bit, um, or if it's Chiesa's abilities, to go back and forth. I feel like Bernardeschi plays more safe, so I don't think he's
Yeah.
going to, attack as much as Chiesa likes to get up and take on his man and things like that. Bernardeschi is a little bit more reserved, so I feel a little bit more confident on that side. But of course, the right side scares me a bit. But what are your thoughts on, I guess, the potential weaknesses of this lineup?
So I would say uh, Sandro. It depends on Sandro. If Sandro has a great game, I'm not worried. If he starts doing those mistakes, this is where I'm starting to get scared because, as you said, Verona, the way they play is they go on the sides. And then inside the box, you're going to easily find 4 or 5 players. So they push all of them, they go and they attack and they cross and they try to score. And you're going to see that a lot tomorrow. So for me, when they defend, it's going to be a 5-man defense. You're going to have Bernardeschi and Chiesa that should go back and help on the sides, helping Sandro from one side and Demiral on the other. Now, when you're saying that Chiesa will go up, that's for sure he's going to do that because, he's the only one that can provide those passes and can even score.
Mhm.
I'm expecting McKennie to take that role, to cover that space behind. So I think Pirlo, this is where he's going to talk to McKennie and tell him, listen, we need your help on that side.
For
Because again,
sure.
Di Marco, Zaccagni, he's the highest scorer there.
Hmm.
It's not a lot with 5, but he's really dangerous when he infiltrates the box.
Yeah, very involved. I think he's involved in 40% or something of Verona's, goals this season. So, if he's not at the end of it, he's creating it for sure, and he has a good link up with Marco, with that overlap, and yeah, they're deadly in that sense. And so we'll just move on from the lineup a bit. We'll just to recap what happened in the first kind of leg of this tie. Ronaldo was missing the first time out. So you can see us in that period in general struggle without him. Um, and it's always an ex Juve player giving us grief. So Favilli on the end of a Zaccagni assist,
Yeah.
and then he also just got subbed out shortly after. He picked up an injury after the goal,
Yeah.
and just much like our other games and Pirlo's style of play, we enjoyed 61.7% of the possession that match. Um, so I guess it's always a debate whether these tactics work. This Pirlo, I know Pirlo wants to always have the ball, because if we have the ball, the other team can't score if we always have the ball, right? But are we good enough to break teams down? And that's the real question. When a team is just letting us control the pace, control the game, do we have enough creativity? I think is the question, to break teams down that allow that to happen. And so, speaking of the opposition allowing us to do that, is Verona, sitting on 34 points, 9 wins, 7 draws, and 7 losses. So we were one of those draws. along with Milan. And their wins included Napoli, Lazio, Atalanta, and Roma. So, what is it about Verona and seeing a big team? What do they change their tactics, or is it just the moment, to try the belief, this is a big game. Like, have you noticed anything different from their approaches?
Yeah, they play a modern football in which they try to pressure high. They try to take the ball. They send a lot of players. They're attack minded. They're your classical Italian, like provincial team, like stay at the back, defend, and try to get 1 point or something like that. No, they go, even if they're winning, they're gonna try and score more. So it works against teams that struggle to take their balls out of their field, and that's why they've been winning against like Napoli and all that. Roma, I wouldn't count because like they got 3-0 because they didn't register their player. It ended
Yes,
0-0.
Dawara. Yeah.
But yeah, they push a lot, and specifically against big teams, they're very they get motivated and they try to score. The problem with that is you cannot play the full season like that unless if you have a good bench, which they don't.
Hmm.
And that's why you see the up and down, up and down. Like
Yeah.
they're winning, they're losing, they're winning, they're losing. They're losing, I guess, like weaker clubs because they're tired and all that. But being ninth right now, and they were like in a good position even last season.
Hmm.
That's for Verona. It's something to be reckoned with, specifically with the players they have. They don't have like stars. You just have a lot of players on loan. They have a mix of young and experienced players. So
It's
no,
safe to
it's
say that they're well coached in that
yeah,
sense.
pretty much.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Everything's just working and gelling, and yeah, you can tell how stubborn they are. I mean, when in the first game where we faced them, very stubborn to break down and get anything. And just if you watch them in general, especially playing the big teams, they look like, you know uh top of the table team when they're playing the big teams. So yeah, but you made a good point that it's hard to sustain that when, at the end of the day, you don't have a bench like Juve or Inter. They've conceded 26 goals. Um, I know there's a lot of talk of me included, I'm scared they're gonna score, and our defensive uh woes right now, having Bonucci out, Chiellini out, Danilo as well. But they have only scored 30 goals. So it's kind of even. So I just feel like they're just a stubborn team in general. So I'm not, like I said earlier, I don't know if I'm more scared of them scoring on us or us being not able to score. And I think it's more us not being able to score. And as you mentioned, if the individuals don't make mistakes, I think that we can get away with it in the back. But it'll just be more us trying to break them down. They do enjoy playing on the left side, so most of their attack, 42% of their play, it comes from the left side. And we mentioned, the two players that I think make up the majority of the left-sided play, and it's DiMarco and Zaccagni.
Yeah,
DiMarco, 3 goals, 3 assists, and he had registered the most key passes on Verona, and Zaccagni, 5 goals, 5 assists. And then you have other guys chipping in that may cause us an issue, like Barak. He is a part of the two behind Lasagna, having 5 goals, 2 assists. And
yeah.
Faraoni is actually having a good season as well, chipping in, um, registering some assists as well. Um, but on the other hand, Juve has only conceded 19 goals, and that's, the best in Serie A. Um, So what else do you think this Verona team can cause trouble for us with? So they added Lasagna. He was on, to be fair, a poor Udinese. He does have some pace though. I think that's his biggest strength. Do you think other than Zaccagni and DiMarco, we can see another player or two causing us some issues?
Yeah, like you mentioned, Barak, Faraoni, Ilic. So all these players coming from the back, these are the ones we have to watch out, and that's why our midfielders they have to be on top tomorrow. They have to be ready. They have to uh, pressure high, aggressive. They need to be aggressive. They cannot just let players go in the box and try to score. You know, that's what they're gonna do. You're gonna see easily 5, 6 Verona players in our box. So we need to be ready to have many players there and to counter right away because this is where we can hit them hard. Uh, Once we get the ball, if we're quick enough and bring the ball to Chiesa, bring the ball to Kulusevski, to Ronaldo, this is where we can score.
Now, is that the approach to this game? Like, would you um because Verona has I think the least percentage of passing accuracy. Like they don't really keep hold of the ball too much, and they don't keep hold of the ball too well. So is your approach to, I know we've seen it a few games so far where we actually sat back and allowed the other team to control the game and pick our moments, and we were actually more like lethal in when we had the few chances. We made them count, as opposed to
Yeah.
games where we're passing the ball side to side, not creating much, or creating uh maybe 10 chances, 7 chances, but nothing, no goals, like us, I guess, similar to the Napoli game. Would you reverse and let them take the ball and pick our moments?
Uh, I wouldn't, but they would still try and push and get the ball in our own half. And this is when I mentioned we need to be quick because what I've seen so far is yes, we had chances to counter, but we always stopped in the middle and waited for other players to come, and that let the other team regroup, and then that's it, it's closed, and we're out of ideas. So I would still hold possession and I would go on the sides and try to score headers like exactly against Crotone. So we saw Sandro passing the ball in the box and Ronaldo scoring. This is one of their weaknesses because this is exactly how Inter also won against them. They barely won, but they did it, and I think it was Skriniar who scored it. But you see, they sent a lot of players in their box, and crossing there, they struggled. And same thing, it was another cross by Hakimi, and Lautaro scored. So this is how you can break their defense. They're gonna leave a little bit of space between their two defenders. This is where we could infiltrate, have Ronaldo there, jump and score. So
Yeah.
that's the number one tactic that I would focus on. And then when they attack, it's really important to get the ball as fast as possible and counter and score. We struggled a lot during the first game because Morata scored twice like that. He received a lot of really nice passes. I think one from Cuadrado, the second one I can't remember exactly, but they were both ruled out for offside. So that's what we should watch out as well. We
Mhm.
need to time our movements. We need to find those key passes. Now we're missing Cuadrado, which is also a big loss. So we're lacking creativity there as well. We need to rely basically on Chiesa. He's the only one with that creativity, and that attack mind to pass those balls. I don't see anyone else who's capable. McKenny, he's not the passer. He's more of like the one helping to build up the game and then infiltrating the box. So, but without Arthur, probably in the second half, we're going to see Ramsey doing that job. But again, Ramsey cannot last the full game.
So you say, I know a big thing is their press, but how do you see us, advancing the ball and transitioning into the offense, with those personnel? So we mentioned Bonucci, and even Danilo is, like you mentioned, is so key for Pirlo's tactics, because he actually penetrates with the ball, he's good with his feet, and he's able to dribble the ball past the halfway line and integrate himself into the play, and kind of kick off that transition into the offense. And so we'll be lacking him. And I know you mentioned Alexandro, so I think he'll play a big role in that, but I'm not sure how much of the ball will go to that side. Or I know that Ronaldo's on that side, so it's surely going to be on the left side, but how effective will it be, with Bernardeschi there, and his likelihood of stopping and passing the ball backwards. The play might die in that sense as well.
Yeah,
Um, so I'm not sure we have the best personnel to facilitate those counterattacks that you are talking about, and how key they're going to be. Um, so who really needs to, step up to make that happen? In the absence of guys like Bonucci, Danilo, Artur.
yeah, that's where we're gonna struggle tomorrow for sure. It's gonna be really tough, especially the first half, because again, the only one who can do that, it has to be Chiesa, but that means he has to fall back a lot, and he's gonna lose that creativity up front. So it's gonna be hard on him. But other than that, if you look at the midfield, it's three players that are not creative. They don't have that sense of creativity. Uh, I saw Bernardeschi try a lot those long passes, but he was never successful with those. So that's really hard. I don't see Bernardeschi playing a big role there. Other than that, yeah, it's only Sandro who can do that. Uh, Bentancur also, he struggles a lot with those long passes. That's it. We don't have a lot of choices. That's unfortunate. But again, if let's say we go the first half 0-0, and then second half we can put Ramsey in, we can put Fagioli, we can put. Uh, that's it. I don't think we have a lot of creativity, but we have a lot of young players that are interesting. Um, Interesting enough to make a difference. That's a big question mark there.
Do you see any of those under 23 players coming off the bench, and getting some time, or only in the case of, you know, if we're winning 2-3 nothing?
Uh, I started looking a bit at each of these players. Ake, I don't have a lot on him. I'm really curious to see how he's gonna play. He's just joined like a month ago, even less, I think. And I'm really curious to see what he can offer up front. Uh, but again, he's more of like a Kulusevski style. He's not like a striker that can take the Morata role. Raffia, we saw him with Genoa. He's okay. He's not amazing, but he did the job at the end. He struggled a lot to score, but he did score.
Mhm.
Um, who else is ready? Peters, I would see him taking the role of Bentancur. He's physical. He can tackle and all that, but I don't think he's gonna play tomorrow. Capellini, I would call him the new Bonucci. He's one of those players that can send long balls and provide those key passes. But defensively, I'm not sure he's ready. So this is the big issue. So I don't see him playing either.
Yeah, that makes sense. You can't really see, well, I can't really see any of these players outside of course Ramsey's gonna come off the bench, and then Fudgeoli, and then I don't really see anyone else coming unless, it's kind of garbage time or the game's going well,
Yeah,
um, or or the game is not going well and you just you need anything that you can get,
yeah,
really. Um, so yeah, I agree with that. And just to go back to um your approach of kind of throwing guys into the box and winning in the air. So as I mentioned before, Verona struggles with these types of situations, like you even mentioned and referred to the Inter game. um, they've conceded, 5 goals from these set piece situations, in the air crossing type situations, and we're actually, pretty decent at that.
hmm
And we have guys like Delict and Demiral on the corners who could really make a difference if we get ourselves into those situations, and then making late runs into the box through McKenny, and obviously Ronaldo, if someone can give him a decent cross. You mentioned
yeah,
no Quadrado, and you see that link up with Quadrado and Morata all the time, and how much we've missed that link, in these past few games. They were really developing an understanding with each other, and Quadrado is really, I mean, his best season for sure for Juve so far, with the racking up the assists, and they aren't just crosses in the air. Like, he
yeah,
is picking out balls to Morata on the ground, through pockets in between the defenders. So definitely gonna miss that.
for sure.
So who's going to be the difference maker for Juventus? Like, who needs to who needs to step up? Like, who's gonna be the guy? I know you said Chiesa, but you know, what about Kulusevski? Is he going to step, like, no one, we're not mentioning Kulusevski. We're kind of,
Yeah,
he's just there, and I feel like that's an issue. I know he's not playing his preferred position, um, but it's not even about, you know, I know you're not a striker, but at least do something, something positive. Um, and I feel like against Crotone, you saw like one or two, feint dribbles, using his body well, um, like on the byline to get by a player or two, but that's pretty much it. And I I felt against Crotone, if Ramsey wasn't in the lineup, and let's say Rabiot was, you would his Kulusevski's performance would have been emphasized, and obviously in a negative way, because I don't think he did much. I
hmm
think Ramsey's addition just made us forget about, Kulusevski's lack of impact in that match. And I feel like it's going to be emphasized even more this match without Ramsey being there.
yeah. So Kulusevski, I have a lot of hope on Kulusevski. I think he's very talented. Was really impressed with how he played at Parma. Uh, but yeah, he never got the chance to really integrate in the team. You have different types of players. Those who can, you put them and boom, they click. Chiesa right away from the first game. It felt like this guy has been playing with us for years. You have others, it will take one season, maybe one and a half. Even Danilo last year, when we saw him play with us, we were like, "Ooh, okay, did we make a big mistake?" Like, who's this guy? Why do we have Danilo? And Danilo this year, he found his spot. And that's the problem with Kulusevski. He's not finding his spot yet. he doesn't know what's his role. He changes every time roles. He's not consistent. He's not a starter. Uh, so he's struggling a lot with that. And that's bad for us because we don't have Morata, we don't have Dybala, we have no options. We have to rely on Kulusevski and hope that he can click and integrate well and know exactly what to do. He did something really important when we played against Inter Milan in Coppa Italia. He knew he played that role. He was on Brozovic
Yes.
the whole game,
Yeah.
and that helped Juventus a lot because Brozovic, when he has some space, he's the maestro of that team, and he's capable of leading the way and all that. But with Kulusevski on Brozovic all the time, it killed the Inter tactics. So he's capable of playing the specific role. Now against Verona, you don't have exactly that problem there. You have Zaccagni that's much more advanced. So I don't think Kulusevski will be in charge of Zaccagni. He would still go back and provide some support because against Verona, you need like all the players helping on the defensive side in order to take the ball and go out of that trap. But yeah, I'm not expecting a great game by Kulusevski tomorrow, unfortunately.
Yeah, I have to agree. I think maybe if he if he just drops a little bit more to pick up the ball, maybe that will make a difference. I know it leaves Ronaldo more isolated. Um However, I don't see any connection that they're forming anyway. Um so Kulusevski, personally feel, needs to have the ball at his feet, running forward with the ball at his feet towards the goal, as opposed to nothing, nothing with his back to goal. He is not that type of player. Um, he looks the best when there is space in front of him, which I feel like is an issue if that's the only way that are creating some positive play, because we know that in Serie A, that's it's hard to find that space. But maybe if he drops a bit lower, um that could help, similar to Dybala. When Dybala plays as a second striker, you know that he likes to drop because he can't play with his back to goal. Um, so, that might help. But where would you, if everyone's healthy, everything is fine, what is your position that you would put Kulusevski in?
I would put him where Chiesa is, if Chiesa is not available.
Hmm. You think he's
Kulusevski and Chiesa, they share the same role.
you think he's a winger?
Yeah,
Hmm. That's
he's more
interesting.
of a winger that he would run and then penetrate the box and try to score, kind of a Robin style.
Hmm. But
And
he
this is
can't.
what I've seen with Parma. He excelled at that.
But did he? I didn't watch him too much at Parma. Um, I watched him like a few times here and there. Um, but I mean, with Juventus, like he looks like he's played on the right side. Um, and when he's played on the right side, I feel like it coincided with Dybala playing, and they got in each other's space and way a lot. But the few times that he's been on the wing, I don't see him similar to Chiesa in the sense that he's direct. He wants to beat his man. He wants to go 1v1. He doesn't even look at anyone else. He just looks at the defender and says, "I'm going to beat you right here.
Yeah.
I'm going to go right by you." I don't get that from Kulusevski. I feel like he's more, in a sense, like, Del Piero beat you one on one, but he did with his body, with his
Mhm.
with his like feints, not with his feet. Where I feel like Chiesa just beats you with his feet, um, and that's why I personally think Kulusevski's more of a sitting behind the strikers role. Do you see him there at all?
I think Pirlo tried him there and it didn't work. Uh, he needs his runs as well. That's the good thing about Kulusevski. And if you remember, the only goal we scored against Verona, it was that he had that run. Uh, he basically received the ball from Morata on the side, and he had to run all the way from like midfield to the goal, dribble a little bit, go back in the box, and shoot with his left and score.
Mhm.
And that was his first goal too. When we played against Sampdoria, it was like that. He dribbles a little bit, goes in the box, and boom, shoots. And that's how he would uh, excel. And this is the kind of role that I see. He won't be able to do that with Dybala for sure because Dybala like he does the same thing, right?
Mhm.
It's exactly the same role. Dybala loves those, like dribbling and then going on his left foot and trying to shoot like top corner.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, Kulusevski and Dybala playing together, that's not a good idea. But I would see him well when, let's say, Morata and Ronaldo are there. He could do something. He could not only play on the side, but like you said, play a trequartista style, uh, do those quick one twos with Morata and try to score, or let Morata shoot as well.
Yes, I liked him the best when I saw him in those areas. Um, I mean, I'll never pick him over Chiesa. In that winger role, especially in Europe, I feel like you need a profile like Chiesa, specifically. But um, I mean, if everyone was healthy, Kulusevski for sure is an amazing option off the bench, and I've nowhere near given up on Kulusevski. He's definitely young,
Yeah.
and you can definitely see the talent there. And he looks like he wants to work hard and has that mentality to get better. So I'm hoping that he gets there as well and can offer something um, going, for the rest of the season. So given all of that, what are your predictions for the scoreline, scores, um, anything else? Red cards, penalties, anything?
Well, penalties, I hate those because, uh, I have my theory, but I'm not gonna go into that. Let's talk about penalties. I'm tired of that. I'm not gonna use it as an excuse for sure. My prediction is 2-1 Juve. It's gonna be a really really tough match. We're gonna barely win. Scorers Ronaldo and McKennie.
Okay, I'm gonna go. I was gonna go 2-1, but the more I think about it, um, I just feel like it's gonna be really tough to get anything going offensively. So I'm gonna go 1-1, and I think um, I think Ronaldo's gonna be on the end of the goal. But I hope I'm wrong, and I hope you're right.
One thing that I mentioned in the video with Giuseppe is that one match that happened and it was really interesting was in 1985. We played against them in the Champions League, and back then because they won the league, which was something crazy. Like you had Juventus with Platini and like all those Italian stars that just won the World Cup and all that stuff, and you had Napoli that started to become a force there. You had like those Italian teams, and Verona out of nowhere they won the league. So that was really impressive. So we played them like in Champions League, and the funny part is when we played in Torino, we had no one in the stadium. It was without spectators as well. It was kind of like where we are right now.
Oh, interesting.
Uh, and the reason why is because of Hazel.
Mm.
So Juventus, we all know like what happened during Hazel and all that. The English clubs were not allowed to play anymore. and Juventus, they got 2 games without crowds, and one of them was against Verona. We won 2-0, luckily, but that was interesting. Like kind of relating to what we're having here today. It's it's still weird, playing without crowds and hearing everything the players say and hearing the ball as if you're like at a training session. You're not in a stadium. It's still kind of weird.
Yeah, of course. And Buffon is gonna lose all of his pennies because the Serie A is catching him saying all these swear words now. So but yeah,
Uh,
that's really interesting. I hope the outcome comes the same. A 2-0 win would be very nice.
mhm,
But yeah, it's difficult. I mean, that's an underrated factor that I think we overlook as fans. Psychologically, we can't um maybe empathize how the players feel, playing without fans, and how that, I mean, like you look at a guy like Ronaldo, and he lives off of that, the fans chirping him, and the crowd, that ego and everything like that. So, that definitely, and there's no home and away type of business, even the Champions League. So it's very underrated, I think, of what that does to a team and players, especially trying to fight back in a league where you're trying to get that 10th scudetto. And we saw the emotions when Zaza scored that goal against Napoli, and that changes everything, and the crowd goes crazy, and then you get that sense of hope back, that okay, we're going to turn this around. And there's none of those factors can be at play this time around. So I like that you brought that up. And
yeah.
I'm not old enough to remember that because I wasn't born. So so yeah, I'm glad you brought that up, and I like that. All right, let's hear your hot take again.
Okay. So hearing this, by beginning of April, Juventus will be first. Just watch Milan right now suffer because they're going to play against really tough teams, not only in the league, but also in Europa League
Hmm.
against Manchester United. Inter, they still have it easy now, but we'll see in March how they're going to be. So it's going to be a race between Juve and Inter, and Juve will surpass them.
I like it. I agree with you in the Milan conversation, and they're really starting to show their true colors. I believe that they were overachieving. Um, you look at the squad and you kind of ask yourself, how the hell did that happen? If you when you look at the type of players they have, and in all in to their fair, like, in all fairness, they were doing it without Ibra for a long period of time as well. So
Yeah.
they kind of gave that hope, that they're the real deal. Um, but it was hard to feel convinced. So I agree with you there. um, the Inter's wins against Lazio and consecutively, really just dominating Milan, um, kind of made me feel okay. I don't know if they're gonna slip up, type of thing, because these are games, where they often, I guess, showed their true colors in the past. And with no Europa League, me and my brother, I know, like, we don't go for Inter by any means, but we
Yeah.
did hope that they made the Europa League. We
Yeah.
were kind of upset that they actually just came in last in their Champions League group, because this is Conte's bread and butter. One championship to fight for, and the league, being a long kind of journey rather than knockout. We know how Conte did with us in Europe. Um, so I hope that you're right, but I like the take and I like the optimism and I like your uh tactical analysis. So I want to thank you for joining me on my podcast channel. I know you do a lot of this stuff, so and it's getting late as well. So I really appreciate you joining me, and I hope you can come back as well for a post match. Because I don't know if you do those often. I know you do. I know you do the pre-match analysis, but I'd love to have you on a post match as well to kind of see how your predictions panned out.
Yeah, absolutely. I tried to do the post match. They're really, really interesting, but I have to watch like every 5 seconds and then
Every
pause and
detail.
try to take
Yeah.
snapshots and all that. I did it a couple times, but then when we're playing every 3 days, it was impossible.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
couldn't.
Yeah. It's difficult. Too many games. Too many games
Yeah,
in a row.
exactly.
But I hope that we continue with this pattern, which would mean that we continue in Europe. Um,
Absolutely.
yeah.
Yeah.
But thank you again for joining me. And like I said, we're gonna have you back on for sure.
Thank you so much. I had a lot of fun, and definitely I'll be back.
Forza Juve.
Forza Juve.